people like Dr. Hector are a model of people who had courage, who had conviction, who had faith in their own goodness.
You can feel his drive. You can feel his focus and concentration.
He was really a trendsetter in the area of civil rights.
Dr. Garcia stood for the people.
None compared to Dr. Hector Garcia.
Dr. Hector was our hero.
He was a great man.
Dr. Hector was born in Yera, Tamaulipas, Mexico in 1914. They had 10 children altogether, but 3 of them died, so there were 7 left. Out of the 7, 6 became medical doctors. Dr. Hector immigrated to Mercedes, Texas when he was 3 years old to escape the revolution.
My earliest memories of Dr. Hector, my brother, when he was just 18 years old, he would come home to Mercedes, Texas in his military uniform. He was coming from the Citizen Military Training Corps, which is a branch of the U.S. Army. He wore his full uniform, his hat, his boots, and oh, we were so proud of him.
His father, Jose, made it a point to take his children into their store and teach them English and history, government. They felt that they weren't getting the adequate education that they needed, and since both of his parents were educators from Mexico, he wanted to make sure that his children were adequately educated to prepare for the rest of their lives.
His mantra of education is our freedom, and it should be everybody's business. This is an important thing because it says to our young people that get an education. It's the thing that lifts you above the fray and makes it possible for you to be successful.
Dr. Hector is teaching us today through his legacy of making sure you do the right thing, of making sure you understand that your education knows no boundaries. And with your education comes knowledge. And with knowledge becomes power. Power to be used for the good, for the common good of all, and that everybody is treated equal.
He was a young man and he was growing up in Mercedes, and your English teacher tells you, Hector, no matter how hard you work or how hard you try, you're never going to make an A in my English class. And as hard as he tried, he made a B. And I think this was just an impression on him. This is the way his life was going to be. And he knew he was going to have to be better than everybody else academically, but spiritually better and emotionally stronger. And I think this was just the beginning of a lifetime of service. He was taught at an early age that education was the key to success. And his father was the same with the women in the family too. It wasn't just with the sons. He treated the girls in the family the same way. So they all became medical doctors, and they all achieved the highest level of education possible.
But Dr. Garcia thought education was the key to any freedom of any person, and we still stand to those principles today.
He took us, his own daughters, at an early age and just instilled into us how valuable an education was. And one of the things I remember him telling me when I was a very young girl, like 8 or 9 years old, is never depend on a man for anything. So he wanted me to go to school, to go to college, to get an education, but most of all, he wanted me to be independent. He was such a fighter. He knew that he was going to fight his way up in society, get accepted, and no one would believe that a man named Garcia could be a medical doctor. So he had to prove his credentials. They had put him in the medical corps, and they realized once he got his credentials from University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, they put him in the medical corps, where he met my mother at that time. He was driving an ambulance with supplies, and he met my mother and all her family, and they just fell in love with him. My mother's family wanted him to stay in Naples and practice medicine, but he told her family that he had to go back to the United States because he had a mission there. he set up medical practice with his brother, J.A. Garcia, in a medical office building in Corpus Christi. He also had his practice next to the Veterans Administration building, where he started taking care of the veterans as they were coming back. And at that time, he heard all of their stories about how they couldn't find jobs, how they didn't have money, how they couldn't get good health care. And he was given $3 a head to take care of them as they were coming in to see him. And I think that's where he knew that he would have to do something to help the veterans as they were coming back, and that's why he established the American GI Forum.
There were all races there. There were blacks, Anglos, Hispanics, Orientals. It was a mixed group of 700 people the first time they met for the American GI Forum when it was founded in 1948. These veterans that were not receiving their checks, they were not being accepted at the Naval Air Station for health because they were sick, so many things like that, a lot of discrimination towards the veteran.
We had many Hispanics serving in the United States military, and after serving our country with honor, they came back and felt discriminated against because we didn't have a leader, a spokesperson, and Dr. Hector P.Garcia was just a natural-born leader, and he was fearless and not afraid to speak his mind and to speak for those Hispanics who had served our country and were willing to give up their lives for our community.
There was a lot of health issues, and Dr. Hector, besides the civil rights issues, was very concerned regarding the health issues. The military taught him about equality, and when he came out here, he saw inequality and saw people not being treated. His first fights, by the way, was regarding the hospitals here in Corpus Christi. They had the so-called Latin American wards, and they had the black wards, the Negro wards, and then they had the rest of the wards. But the Latin American ward was the most populous and the most discriminatory because there was more of them. So he came along at the right time to help us in that area, the health area. Then at the same time, on the health, he was very concerned about poor sanitary conditions. He worked a lot to be able to take away the septic tanks, for example, in the Molina area, and the area west of Corpus Christi.
The discrimination case that was filed against the Corpus Christi Independent School District was probably it was a pivotal point for him in that he was successful. He was able to get his foot in the door and to help transform the segregation that existed in Corpus Christi. The day that the ruling came down, I was working with him in his office, and he got a call that day from Dr. Dana Williams. And I told my father, Dr. Dana Williams is on the phone and wants to speak to you. And he came out of his room taking care of patients, went to his private office, came out briefly and said, when I get finished here, I'm going down to meet with Dr. Dana Williams. I said, you are? I mean, I was very surprised because in the public, they were fighting with each other and calling each other names. And my father said that Dr. Dana Williams had to go and he was not adequate for the position. And so Dr. Dana Williams called my father for help. And when he finished his work that day, he went down to meet with him because Dr. Williams didn't know exactly what they needed to do to integrate the schools. So I think that was just how somebody can put all that hatred behind them, knowing that they were working for a common goal that would benefit everybody, that he just could do that. Not too many people can do that. I don't even think I could do that for myself. Someone that I've been fighting with for so many years, that you can just in 1 minute just forget it and move with them and move forward. I think that was just very admirable of him.
Dr. Hector Garcia was very forceful, but very articulate, respectful, but at the same time knew what he wanted.
I think that my father was a person that comes around every century. You're not going to see another one like him, a person that dedicated his entire life, over 50 years of his life, at great, tremendous personal sacrifice to help other people, not just medically, but helping them with citizenship, helping them when there was ever a scent of discrimination in their lives. Just a very kind individual, and I think that is so missed right now, that there's so much Democrat versus Republican, and I think he was not like that. I think he just wanted what was right for everybody, and he knew the Constitution backwards and forwards, and he knew what was right and what was legal and what was not. And so he pushed his way through Congress, getting laws passed that benefited this whole country. And I think that's what we miss about someone like that the most, someone that was there to really do the right thing.
He was probably the most dedicated, determined man that I had ever met in my life. Any project that he started, he never gave up. A lot of times when we meet with young people and they're all involved in electronics and all the games and stuff that they play and cell phones, and I asked him, I said, do you know all the accomplishments that Dr. Hector did? He had no cell phone, he had no computer, he had no fax, no emails, he didn't have phones to do text messages. He did it all with a telephone and a typewriter in Western Union. And how many people today could really do that? And could you imagine what he could do today if he had the media that he could get to as quickly as he can today?
Dr. Hector, the influence that he had on the state of Texas and the nation was tremendous. And what he was an individual who was a doctor. He was the ultimate public servant. Not only did he try to bring issues to the forefront, but he took care of people. He was an individual that took care of us two ways, medically, and he took care of us spiritually.
And he really had a kind heart for everyone. And if you came to see him and you couldn't pay him, he didn't care. He would take care of you anyway. And there are stories of him when people had to go to the hospital for care, he would give them the money to get admitted.
And Dr. Garcia was one of the few that made up his mind that he was going to do everything he could to help his people.
And it was amazing because what I saw there was a man of conviction, a man of drive, and a man who stood on principle and treated everyone with dignity and respect. It was just an amazing experience for me as a young lawyer that really left an impression for the rest of my life.
In September of this past year, Incarnate Word Academy was the beneficiary of the first Dr. Hector P.Garcia Foundation scholarship. We have 2 deserving students to receive that scholarship over the next 2 years during their junior and senior year of high school.
There's so many people that do not know about Dr. Hector. And we think that with our foundation and trying to instill in everyone the things that he did and being able to explain his passion for people, his passion for this country, and his passion for education. If we can help students with education and scholarships, if we can help the universities to be able to display Dr. Hector's papers with the addition of the wing, if we can help veterans to acquire things that they may need through our foundation and hopefully through funds that are provided through donors, I think it will do a great job as far as promoting and keeping Dr. Hector's legacy alive.
The goal of our foundation is to make sure people know about Dr. Garcia, promote him on a national level where he needs to be, not only giving out scholarships in his name, but what's so important to me is that this wing at A&M University Corpus Christi gets built so that the public can come in and view his 50 years of work that historically should be preserved here, and you're not going to find that anyplace else because he has so many things that you're never going to find. And that's really our goal. We really want to promote him because I feel that he is more deserving than what people know about him.
Well, the university hosts the papers from not only Dr. Hector, but his sister as well, and a variety of other important leaders in this community. Having the library wing where other memorabilia and so forth from his life could be displayed would only enhance that activity that is involved when people want to come and study the life of somebody of the stature and importance of Dr. Hector.
The library edition is so important to not only our community, but all of South Texas and basically all of the United States and even into Mexico to show what this gentleman fought for the rights that he fought for everyone, to have civil rights, but not only do that, but to obtain an education.
We should never forget the struggles we've had in the past with discrimination. Dr. Hector P.Garcia was well respected. He could articulate the concerns and bring forward the case and make sure that those who needed to have change, that change would be done.
I think many times people forget how we got here, especially our youth. But keep in mind there was always someone that led the way and took the first step to make sure that all of us had equal rights under our state government. And we should remember Dr. Hector P.Garcia because of the accomplishments, that he was not afraid to speak out for equal rights for Hispanics, equal rights for our military and veterans who came back from the war. So we should remember him because what we enjoy today was because of people like Dr. Hector P.Garcia that were willing to fight for those rights.
He's a true American hero, and if children nowadays need a hero and a person they can look up to, they need to study anything they can study about Dr. Hector P. Garcia because he was a true hero. And he meant so much to his family, obviously, and he did so much for his city and his state and his country, both militarily and as a doctor and as a humanitarian. There'll probably never be another person like Dr. Hector Garcia.
Dr. Hector had an impact on many, many people who certainly have not had the opportunity to meet him or know him when he was alive. But still, his reach continues through his work.
I think we can be inspired to be better people and then therefore inspire our own families and our own community, and then little by little we can achieve that kind of unity and peace that Dr. Hector was able to achieve in his lifetime.
All these things he impacted and made life better for all of America.
Through his determination that he never gave up, that one man really can make a difference, and he did.
From the bottom of my heart, for them to know that he was a loving, kind man to his personal family, his brothers and sisters, his children. He loved the human race. Very kind person. I never saw him get angry. Very compassionate.
Generations should remember Dr. Hector because he was a pioneer. But he was a pioneer with a cause who never enriched himself. He never asked for anything for himself. He took care of everybody, and poor Dr. Hector, he did not enjoy a financial status. He could never retire because he just had to work, and he gave away a lot of his money, and he just did not charge enough. He took care of his family, and his family included the American GI Forum. The family included all the poor people around him, and he was a very, very generous man. Why should we remember Dr. Hector? Because people like that are hard to come by and see and meet.